Good morning, folks. We're now going on to day 5. We're just leaving the Barisdale bothy where I stayed last night. Met a good guy, Harry there, and a nice German couple. Unfortunately, I did not get much rest last night. Despite the location being good, they had I think it was a couple maybe came in. They came in about midnight. And they were noisy as. I mean, probably up until about 2 in the morning. I think they were also drinking as well. So it never helped matters, couldn't switch off. I'm starting today really tired. So plan to obviously is to head to Kinlochewe. Distance wise, it's, I can't even remember, it's about a 4-hour journey. To get there estimated. They do say that this, I'll actually put the distance up on the description there. One of the things I've been so tired. We'll get there, I reckon it'll take longer than that, because according to the German couple we were speaking to last night, they've been doing the Cape Raft, doing it from north to south, and they said it took them near most of the day to do it. And they're quite experienced hikers. So I want to get to Kinlochewe. I'm starting early, it must be just before 7. Ideally there is a tea room there, but most times it seems to be closed. But that would be just absolutely amazing if I could get in there. They do sort of cream scones, things along those lines, and when you're on the trail at a certain point it's all about food. So yeah, that's my goal. Probably won't happen, but I'll take it if I can get it. And it's one step closer anyway towards hitting Shield Bridge, getting a shower, getting a bar meal, getting a pint down me as a nice wee reward. And they do say that the section up to Shield Bridge, as you're going, especially going up through the Noid, that's what we're doing, is the hardest section of the Cape Raft Trail. So if I can get that out of the way, that is the priority at the moment for me, and then we can just take things as they go from there. So if I get to Kinlochewe, depending on how I feel, I really want to be doing a few extra miles today as well into the journey heading towards Shield Bridge, so at least when I arrive at Shield Bridge it's not too late in the day. So anyway, a little bit less talking for me and a bit more walking. We'll catch up in a bit. So following on from this morning, obviously I wasn't fully awake. The mileage from Barisdale to Kinlochewe is 7 miles. As I said, it estimated anything up to 4 hours. Now I left at 7 o'clock. I'm almost at the halfway stage, and that's just coming up to 9. So I've actually been making reasonably good progress this morning. Yeah, this trail path's far more forgiving than what you'd done on the previous day. And obviously far less elevation. And you've got a nice cool sea breeze as well. Yeah, I'm actually quite enjoying this section. Yeah, makes a change. The path's more like what I would expect to find, say, in like the Kearvaig mountain range, a more traditional sort of hiking trail. So yeah, I'm far more comfortable with it. Anyway, so move along, and we'll probably catch up again as we get towards Kinlochewe. So I'd say the last third of the trail is actually quite hard going. A lot of elevation, very wet underfoot coming down the paths, quite slidey. And just before you come into Kinlochewe, it might not even be less than a quarter of a mile, you've got this thick undergrowth that you've got to actually walk through, and that is very muddy on foot. Yeah, just not nice really, to be honest. So I'm finally on the track road leading us into Kinlochewe, and hopefully it's about midday. I am very wishful thinking that this B&B might be open, or tea room, but we'll find out as we get further down the track. So I'm at the Hourn head tea room. Now it is closed, but I was very fortunate that some of the staff came by and they've been more than generous to help me out, and they've got me a couple cans of juice and a Kit Kat, just what I require, and it's a big morale boost to me, so I could not be more appreciative for them. So I'm going to tuck into that, and the plan from here onwards is to head towards Shenavall and try and do a few more miles today, and yeah, we'll just pick up things from there. So if you leave the tea room, come across the bridge, this is the campsite that you'll be looking for, or the area where you can at least get your tents pitched up. So I finally reached the summit leading out of Kinlochewe. Things I will say, right, the reason why no one is able to get into this tea room, it being closed, when I was speaking to staff, is the main road that actually leads into it has actually been damaged, and it has been actually like this for a year. It's not been able to be repaired. That's why the place is basically just closed down. I was just very fortunate to obviously manage to speak to some of the staff directly and get some supplies, and believe me, I needed it. Even though it was just a couple of cans of juice, just a little bit of sugar, a little bit of energy, just to climb out of Kinlochewe, because basically it's a logger's track, very stony, and it just goes straight up. So there's no respite at all. But fortunately I'm now on the decline. So we'll move a bit further along the trail and see where we go. So I've arrived at the deerstalker's hut. And a lot of maps this will not show. So what I'll do is I'll put down a grid location to help you plan for this. Now this is ideal location because it's about halfway between Kinlochewe and Shenavall. So if you start off tomorrow early on your next again day, you've only got about 10 miles to get into Shenavall, which is a nice easy day. You can arrive probably early afternoon, get into a camp at Shenavall, get all your stuff washed, and then get yourself a shower, more importantly, and get yourself down to a hotel, get yourself a bar meal or whatever it is you decide to treat yourself with. So what we'll do is we'll have a wee look inside the deerstalker's bothy. It is in disrepair, but it means tomorrow I don't have to put a tent away and I can just be quickly away on my travels. As you can see, it's pretty Spartan. You do have a window, but there is a river just down, which you can see on the camera as well, so you can get a wash or whatever. Good morning, folks. We're going on to day 6 and we're still heading towards Bridge. Last night I stayed in the deer stalker's hut and that was an experience. The wind it was terrible last night, really strong. I had this heavy stone up against the door and it was still blowing the door open, so I ended up having to put my back against the door just to prevent the wind sort of smashing through the door. I really feel for people who were out in their tents last night, because that wind was crazy. It's died off a bit now, so we're going to head along the track and hopefully get to Shenavall around about late midday if possible. Just to be mindful, in that section, just before you cross the ford of the river, there's actually a large nice green patch area where you can get your tent pitched as well when you come to that deer stalker's hut. Anyway, we'll go move along and we'll catch up a little bit further along the trail. So as you can tell, it's pretty damn windy up here. We've got a small loching behind us. That was a hard climb getting up here. Once you come off the ATV path, there's no footpath, there's nothing like that at all. No muddy prints to try and follow. You just have to make it up here the best way you can. I would just set myself, there'd be large boulders on the way up and I would just use them as way markers and try and cut a straight line as best you can. Yeah, that was very taxing walking into the wind. But now, finally, we're on our descent down to Shenavall and I'm feeling a lot better about that. Plenty of deer in this area as well. So we came off the hillside yesterday and it was extremely strong winds. I was getting pushed down to the ground on quite a few occasions and it was very slippy underfoot. So from Kinlochewe through to Shenavall, I would say the first half of it is pretty easy going. Obviously you've got that tough loggers track that you have to climb out of Kinlochewe, but the rest of it's, until you actually come up to that Glomach, that's a challenge, and it's quite hard to sometimes actually pick out the path once you get over the Glomach to head down. If you can't find it, it's going to make work a lot harder for you. And as I said, very wet underfoot. But we're at the campsite now, and you'll not miss it, because as soon as you come off the track, you're going to see this campsite here, the Glen campsite. It's £15 a night. It's got showering facilities, it's got places you can get your stuff washed. It works on a kind of an honesty basis for doing your washing. There's a small kitchen. It's got everything you need. It's a really nice campsite. They've got lots of bird feeders out, so there's lots of birds around. Even today there's lots of birds of prey about. They get golden eagles, they get buzzards, they get kites, they've got everything in this area, and they've also got owls as well. It's just a spectacular place to be. I'll show some more of it tomorrow when I head off on our next section of the trail, and I'll give you some more info.
Good morning folks. We're now going on to day 7 of the Cape Wrath Trail. I've taken a day off just to get some rest at the Glen campsite and made use of all the facilities around the area. So I'm feeling, morale's good, clothes are clean, I'm smelling reasonably fresh, so all set for the day. So the plan at the moment is to head towards Lochs. So there's a couple of places along the way we'll be going past. We'll be going past Maol-Bhuidhe first, which is just a few miles up the road. And then obviously the focal point will probably be the Falls of Glomach, which is meant to be quite spectacular. Now distance wise, I gauge it to be roughly about 15 miles. So it is going to be a long day, but the weather at the moment is looking really nice. And according to the forecast, it should remain like this for most of the day. So what I'll do, as we go through Bridge, I'm just going to point out some of the places that you can get your stuff stocked up on, and some of like the hotels and food stops and things like that. So we'll pick up on a wee bit. So we just came past the Kinlochewe Lodge. Now it is a bit pricey for food there. There are bunkhouses, but you need to really book in advance to get in there. But the staff are very friendly, and if you want to keep your costs down low, if you go there for an evening meal, they start serving at 5:30, and you can just buy smaller dishes, probably a bit more cost saving. Now where we are at the moment, you've got the quite famous Kinlochewe craft store here. They have a selection of like cheeses, meats, milk, juice, the general sort of things that you need, camping gas, stuff like that. And behind me, the place that I was most impressed with was the pit stop. Now pit stop does, obviously, it's just like any sort of diner on the road, but it's really cheap in there for food, and it's good quality. They open up at 10, the craft store is 10:30, so the time you get your breakfast and all that, you can just head over there. And when you're at the pit stop, you can look over, sit on the benches and look over Loch Druick, and it's just beautiful. I done that yesterday, it was really nice. Anyway, so we'll move on towards the Maol-Bhuidhe campsite. So I've just arrived at the Maol-Bhuidhe campsite. On the way up, you'll come across an honesty box. Obviously there's nowhere else open at this time in the morning, so you can pick up cakes and things like that there, just if you need a wee snack for the road. The campsite prices here, I'm sure it's, I think it was $17.50 for a night. A little bit more expensive than the campsite down the road, but it's a far larger facility, and it's yet again another picturesque location. For me, I've actually been doing the Scottish National Trail as well, so me actually getting here is the start of the next leg of another journey for me by completing this Cape Wrath Trail. Anyway, we'll head up the road. So the early part of the walk leading up to the forest has been, it's been very easy going. Nice track, good sort of foot trail, and there are some signs pointing towards the falls. Seems quite surreal compared to what we've been doing over the last few days, being up in the mountains, actually having it all laid out for us. I was actually giving some thought though to actually having a day off to reflect, I suppose, about the Cape Wrath. What does make it the hardest trail in Scotland? and does it deserve that title? I'll be very interested to find out for people who have walked the trail what they think makes it hard, and is it really worthy of being that hardest trail? You know. Anyway, post your thoughts down below, I'll be interested to read them. So just mind when you get to this point, it's the lower track that you're heading down. I believe the sign for it is now all broken. A lot of people get lost at this section thinking that automatically they should be climbing up towards the falls. So just keep that in mind. Not the best way to try and identify this for you because the wind is too strong. I'm struggling to keep my mount up. If you go towards the end of the falls, you'll automatically see there's a path that starts leading down. That is the one they tell you is dangerous and the one to avoid. If you actually look heading up the path, you'll see a couple of people walking over there. There's actually a line that goes up the hill, which is apparently the safer route to take. So I'll just come off the hillside, very steep hill track coming down and a sheer drop obviously to the right hand side of you. I certainly would have not wanted to attempt to take that lower path, that would be far too dangerous. I would certainly advise against it. So I'm just going to make our way now along towards Lochs. There is a bothy there, Maol-Bhuidhe or something like that it's called. I'll put the name on the screen. Probably butchering the name of it. So I'm just coming across the last Glomach before heading towards the bothy for tonight. Now it might be an idea if it's getting late on in the day, before you start the ascent to the Glomach to take you towards Lochs, is if you're getting tired, there's another bothy, the Iron Lodge, and you'll actually see signs posted for that while you're on this route. So that's an option. Anyway, I'm going to head down, getting pretty tired, it's been a long day. Yeah, so I'll catch up with you as soon as I get down to the bothy. That's us finally at the bothy. I'll have a wee wander around, see if we can find the Wi-Fi code. It's a little bit dark, I've not got my torch on. It's a nice wee billeted area. Yeah, this is really one of the nice bothies. Excellent. Right guys, we'll catch up with you tomorrow. Morning folks, off to an early start, left at 6 this morning from Maol-Bhuidhe, Bothies. Crossing the plain at the moment, obviously trying to get towards Strathcarron. Strathcarron today is not too far, it's only about 30 miles and a lot of it's quite, a lot of it's on track. But coming out of the Bothies, initially it's alright because you've got a track, or a path at least down to the river that you need to cross. But once you get over there, especially in the low light conditions, it's very hard to pick up any form of path. Fortunately now I'm back on an ATV path, so hopefully I'm on the right route at last.
So we're just going around Lochs at the moment. Oh, this is so peaceful. No one about. Unlike the first few days of doing the hike. Yeah, this is exactly what I've been looking for. Really nice solitude up here. The bothy last night, that's got to be one of the nicest bothies I've actually stayed in. And made it better with it was just a great group of people who were there. You just actually clicked along. And you'll find as you do the trail, obviously you're going to meet different walkers, but these walkers have met people that you've met, and that way you keep informed of what's been going on with other walkers along the trail. It's quite interesting how it works out.
Well, I can actually say I feel totally at peace today. It's the first time where I've actually been on a route, or a section of a route, where I don't feel like I'm actually having to be in a rush to get there. And because it's mostly just walking on track, you can switch off a little bit from the whole navigating side as well. But yeah, it's been surprisingly quiet. You know, obviously there's no other walkers about at the moment. I actually feel like I'm disturbing the peace just by talking. Hardly any animals as well. Yeah, quite strange. So I was just thinking back over the last few days, you know, and even at this sort of stage, yeah, you know, you're starting to think about things that you could have done differently. You know, be it gear or how you broke up the sections for the trail. Now, I certainly would. I mean, gear's a very personal thing, especially the weight that you carry, because everyone's different. But the trail itself, when they do have like the recommendation to break it down into smaller sections, I'd probably go for that if I was to do this trail again. Just so it puts a little bit less wear and tear on the body. Now, I appreciate not everyone can do that, because everyone's got time constraints from what they can get off work. Other people solely want to do it for that, obviously, that challenge, trying to do it in 14 to 17 days or whatever target they set themselves. But yeah, oh, this is beautiful. So we've managed to see our first signs for the Cape Wrath Trail. Just as you come up from, I think it's Sluice Dam, I don't know if it's a sheep sty or whatever it is. You'll see the signpost on the right hand side of the track. From there, you just follow up the fence, the corroded fence, up until you get to the Glomach. To be honest, it's boggy underfoot. I chose the right hand side. It seemed to have something of a path at points. I didn't see so much on the left hand side. And as you come up, you get on top of the Glomach, you will eventually find paths to the far right hand side of you. So yeah, so what we're going to do, it's 10:30. I've been making surprisingly good time, and my hope is if I get my ass in gear, I might get down to Strathcarron for lunchtime and get myself something light to eat. So let's move on. Good morning folks. We're now going on to day 10 of the Cape Wrath Trail, and we find ourselves at Strathcarron where I stayed last night at the hotel, pitched up just across the road from it. Fantastic place, good food, very warm welcome from the staff, very impressed with the place. It certainly lives up to the reviews that other people have given. So while it's obviously pelting down with rain at the moment, I'm going to cut this one reasonably short and just start getting along the track, but I will show you the pitch area first on the camera. And we'll be heading this morning, probably get out of the way, to Ling Hut. So we're probably about I think it's about 11 to 12 miles today. A little bit of elevation, and obviously being wet underfoot, it'll probably take us a bit longer than the estimated 6 hours, but we'll just see how we get on. Oh well, the rain's died off a little bit. So yeah, obviously it was quite a quick intro this morning. As I said, very nice day at the hotel. Very, as I said, homely atmosphere. It's one of these places that when you get to, it's actually quite hard to leave. You know, if it wasn't for the fact I was walking today and on the trail, I could have quite happily stayed for a few more pints and play some pool or something like that. And even this morning, you know, you're in there, you're getting your breakfast, you're looking outdoors and you see the rain, you just think, so easy just to have a nice easy day indoors. But anyway, we'll carry on with this trail, and this is more what I class traditional Scottish weather for hiking. We would call it dreek, you know, where it's very dark and overcast and raining. But I prefer this over the sun any day of the week. from the start of this morning, you've had good farm track, and as soon as you headed up into the hills, yet again, nice rocky stone paths which are not over flooded. So it's been good. You can make a really good headway on this section, at least for at least the halfway part anyway. Obviously still have to travel further forward to find out what's going on. Anyway, me blethering away there. So I'm actually trying to think tomorrow what to do. So obviously we get to Ling Hut probably early afternoon maybe today, and then the goal obviously is to get to Kinlochewe, which everyone like sees as the halfway point, and it's a place you can get resupplies and all the rest. Now before you go there from Ling Hut, there is an alternative section you can do which goes along Ben A. I think that's how it's pronounced, one of the Munros. But I've heard a lot of people who've been walking from north to south doing a Cape Wrath that one, they didn't enjoy it, and likewise it's excessively boggy. So my plan is to climb that Munro, I think it is a Munro anyway, at some point in the near future. So I'm just wondering whether just to give that a miss and do what a lot of other people do, is when you get to Ling Hut, it's just either to, well, I suppose you could film a lift if you want, I want to do it, but just walk along the road section into Kinlochewe, and that means tomorrow I can kind of have sort of rest day, I suppose, catch up with wash and do the normal sort of stuff, do some shopping. Anyway, that's the thoughts for the time being. Alright, so let's have a wee look around this bothy. This is meant to be one of the better ones. That's the name of it. And I do actually have my light on for my camera. I don't know if it's going to make any difference. See how dark it is. Nicely furbished inside. And the sleeping section should be upstairs. Should be a room in here. Very small, but will do one person. And I think there's another room on the other side. Yeah, not bad. So we're just leaving the loch behind us, and we're making our way up the hill trail. Everything from the bothy onwards has been, I can only say, heavily flooded. Pathwise, it's night and day going along this section now. Anyway, I'm going to put the camera away, concentrate on what I'm doing, and I'll pick you up probably once I get to the B-lap. Apologies for the poor sound quality. Unfortunately, the weather conditions were extremely bad at this point, so I've had to switch to using the camera's inbuilt audio. As I came down from the Beelac, there were some cairnstone markers but not initially an obvious path. But once you pick up the cairnstones, you will eventually come across a nice track path. The paths themselves were flooded with the heavy rain, and the wind was certainly picking up. The areas I looked at when coming down from the path to get pitched up were flooded. Good morning, folks. We find ourselves this morning on day 12 in Kinlochewe. There is a bit of catching up to do from the previous day when we were at Ling Hut. But I'll start off here just doing a wee tour around the Kinlochewe first. Now, I've actually got more supplies in the store probably than it does actually in the post office, which has another store just down the road. The food's really good. There's a wee shelter to the left hand side of me with heaters, which you can go and sit in. As I said, you just go and order your food in the store, and there's a separate pick-up area at the far side, and it also has toilets as well. So this is the post office. It's not obvious to be seen because the sign's lying on the floor, but if you go into the store, the post office is immediately to your left hand side. So if you've got any resupply parcels, that's where you'll collect them. As I say, they do have some food bags and things like that you can collect from there, but it's quite a sparse store, to be honest. Further down the road you've got the hotel, and immediately opposite the hotel you've got your bus stop. So if you're calling it a day at the halfway point for the Cape Wrath, you can pick up your bus from there. Right, we'll head on the trail and I'll do some catching up as we go along. So I'll pick up from where you last see me on the trail, and that was when I was heading toward Ling Hut. Now, on that particular day, the weather was absolutely atrocious, and so was the next day afterwards. So the areas that I originally looked at getting pitched were flooded. So I ended up having to do something I didn't, well, certainly wasn't planned for. There was a caravan stop just off the main road as you come to that junction near Ling Hut. Unfortunately, there were a couple of areas around there with flat grass that I was able to get my tent pitched up. There was another hiker who was with me on that particular walk, and he decided, just due to conditions, to call it a day, and that was him finished with the trail, which I can understand, you know, everyone's got the limits. So when I got up to that area, there was a guy in his camper van, a guy called Jason, and the first thing he said to me through his hatch is, do you want a cup of tea? Oh, and I enjoyed that cup of tea. Jason, top lad, he offered us, gave me a can of juice as well, just being a decent human being, helping someone out. So yeah, very grateful to him, and wish you luck in your own hiking adventures. So from there onwards, we then went to next again day, took the more direct path into Kinlochewe and went to the campsite. Now the arrivals are 1 o'clock onwards for the campsite, costs £16.50. I was met by staff there, polite enough, same guy took us around, shows the pitch area. There's only 5 or 6 pitching areas for tents, so it's not a large campsite for tents. Went in there, straight away went and got a shower, got my gear in the dry room. The guy said I could stay in the dry room, as they do in a lot of the campsites if you need to use it for charging things up. All my clothes into the washing machine, and the other hiker had come through, and obviously he's still damp, still smelling from obviously being on the trail. And this camp warden, the same one who took me out, came back into the room, then started spraying it with disinfectant while we were in the room, small room, and basically telling us it wasn't good enough to be smelling like that. Which one I took offence to, because A, I was in fresh clothes and showered, and all my stuff was in the washing machine. The only thing I had that was damp were my boots. But yeah, really bad customer service on the camp's part there. I really did leave a sour taste in my mouth. And he had actually the cheek to say to the other hiker, who did admit it was his gear that was stinking, and he was stinking, and he apologised. Said, maybe you should take a shower. And this has come from the camp guy, so clearly not very tolerant towards hikers in that campsite, and a complete lack of understanding or compassion as well. So you will be getting a scathing review. Anyway, that's my rant out of the way. Anyway, we'll catch up a little bit further on the trail. So today we're heading towards, well, Lochs. So I'm trying to push in maybe 15 miles today. So I'm trying to obviously get to Ullapool on the next again day. But rather try and get there quite early. Obviously I'm going to need to either most likely get a taxi there. Something like I'm made of hitching. So we'll see how much we can get done today. The areas I had looked at getting pitched along this route, I know are probably going to be flooded now. I know another hiker who I keep in touch with on the trail, and he's giving me some idea of what I might be walking into today. So we're just passing Lochs, and this is a section of trail I was really looking forward to. When they talk about the Cape Raft, there's two main areas. One is the Knoydark, and the next part of it, which is what we're walking on today, or going into, is the Fisherfield. And this location, oh, it's something else. So tranquil, it's exactly what I've been needing, especially after that little set 2 yesterday. But this is beautiful, it really is stunning, absolutely stunning. So as you come up from Lochs, there is a kind of faint trace of a trail, but I think this is to be expected for a good part of today's walking, that for most part, once we come off the tracks and things like that, you're going to be following these sort of cairnstones. Now this is one of the larger ones, most of them are actually quite small, so in bad weather conditions they'd probably be quite hard to find. So other than that, you're just going to have to try and take a direct line and make the best of it. we're just coming up to Loch Now, from where we last left off, I think it was the cairnstones. So, not long actually after that cairnstone, there weren't many others. So you really just had to make your best way you could. Then I came across the waterfall or stream section, and keep heading down. Yet again, it's still boggy, there's hardly any path pickup, but eventually you will come across a good trail path which takes you right down to the loch. So you just need to persevere. So just past Loch Ynad. It would have been very nice going along that section, but it was heavily flooded, and obviously there's a lot of cattle been grazing in the area. So there's a lot of muck between the wind, the rain, the muck. There's no wind at all. The flies have been absolutely rife. Anytime I've tried to stop for a break, it's just not been worthwhile. So the last footage you've seen was of once you obviously part away from the loch, you'll follow the river down, and then you'll come to you'll see in front of you this old pine forest. Now if you were to head in a westerly direction, once you get to that camping site area, you could go towards Shenavall bothy, which is meant to be one of the nicer ones you can go to, but I'm taking a more direct approach towards Dundonald forest, so I've got certainly a bit of a rise to do. We've already done probably about nearly 15 miles today, so if I can put another maybe 2-3 miles in, I think that will really trim some time off tomorrow, and then I can have a proper rest day once I get to Liverpool. But we'll take things from there. Good morning folks, and yet again it's off to another early start. Now yesterday I managed to put in a 20-mile hike and I got myself all the way down to just before Dundonald House, and there's a small wooded copse just before the river where I managed to get pitched up. It was actually quite a good site, nice and dry. So the plan is to head towards Inverleil today. Since I've done quite a bit of mileage yesterday, it's only going to be about 6 miles. So I'll get there sort of very early morning, I would think. Anyway, we'll get along the track and we'll take things from there. So the sun's up and this is promising to look like a nice day. Coming up the hill from that bridge area, yeah, there's a few intersecting paths, so just make sure you obviously get the right one. But it's very overgrown with bracken, brambles, and there was a lot of fallen trees as well. So a relatively short climb, took a lot longer than expected. But we seem to be at least on the plateau now, not too much elevation. So I'm looking forward to getting to Liverpool. No, it'll be full of tourists and all the rest. It's the first major town since Fort William, so I'll be spoilt for choice for food and for drink, and so the sooner I get there, the sooner I can hopefully start enjoying myself. So plan is, as I said this morning, to get to Inverleil car park. That seems to be the sort of designated area that taxis pick you up. And obviously you could hitchhike until Liverpool, I suppose. There's also a phone box at the car park if you required it. Yeah, let's get moving along. So finally on to some farm roads. I can show you it's a welcome sight. Yeah, so the section I was doing this morning, it's just going after 10 o'clock. So that's taken me just over the 3-hour mark. And to do that, they'd say it would only take about 2.5. I think it's just got so wet underfoot, so boggy. And likewise, even once you reach the plateau and start heading down, it's really quite a steep decline coming down into Inverleil. So you really need to watch what you're doing. Oddly enough, that particular section, which is quite tricky, is actually called something like Coffin Lane. And there were certain points coming up that hill initially that I was dying. I had to take a break about 3 times. Yeah, totally underestimated that section. Just shows you the Cape Wrath Trail never gives you an easy day. Anyway, we'll pick up again in Liverpool. So we've arrived at the Broomfield campsite. Charge for the night is £14. It's probably the cheapest so far. One thing I would say is the showers are terrible. They've got no pressure and hardly any heat. So yeah, that's a bit disappointing. But immediately as you come into the campsite, there is a coffee house that you can go into and get fresh food, so that's quite handy. It opens up at 8 in the morning. So what I plan to do, now all my stuff's been washed and I've showered, other than getting a shave, is to head off into town, get some fish and chips, possibly a few drinks, and we'll be all set for tomorrow. I'll do some filming of Liverpool, show you some of the sights, but other than that, we'll catch up tomorrow.